Hey everybody, how's it going? It is it is time. It is Friday at noon Mountain Time, and we are doing something kind of fun today. We are getting up off the ground and into the air. We are doing the High Line. And as always, well, not always actually, depending on our travel schedules, I do have Donovan though back with me by my side today. Donovan, you there?
I'm back.
All right. You're back and better than ever. Back with a
I'm
vengeance.
here,
Just
and
just
I'm
back.
accompanied by a pretty spectacular lightning and thunderstorm going on outside. So if you hear rumblings, know that it's not me.
Okay. Well, if you just disappear and you don't answer, then I'll just assume your power went out or something. But let's fingers crossed that
Yep.
doesn't happen. And we're just gonna get right into it. There's no real introduction. Hopefully everyone knows what the High Line is. If you don't, you will after today's stream because there's no backstory on this one. We're just gonna model, and you'll see behind me I've got some stuff ready to go. So I don't. Yeah, we're just gonna get to it. I'm gonna shrink myself. Let's do this. Ready? Tiny head. All right, so we got some chats coming in. So any shout outs, hopefully all my regulars are with me today. And
Yep, a lot of the regulars. We got some people from Senegal, from Norway, from Belize, from Georgia, from Newfoundland. As with most lives, we are worldwide, have a worldwide audience. And just to get this out of the way up front, we do live across multiple platforms: YouTube, LinkedIn, X, Facebook, all over the place. If you have any technical issues during this, just come on over to YouTube, jump on the live there, be part of the chat. Let us know where you're from: Afghanistan, UK, all over.
and
We'll hang out together. It'll be fun.
speaking of international destinations, I guess I will start with, I said I wasn't going to do too much of a preamble, but I do want to locate where we are in the world. The High Line, for those of you that don't know, it's in New York City. If you know where kind of Chelsea is, the Chelsea area, it's kind of, it's on Manhattan, and it's sort of be somewhere between downtown and Midtown. So I'm not from there. I've been there. I've been to the High Line a couple times, but you can kind of find it. It's this little sliver. It's an elevated railway, which is kind of cool. They built it elevated because it turns out the at grade one was running over people with too many people, and they said, well, we need to get this thing off the ground. So that's the backstory on this thing. But it was disused, like a lot of railroads in the United States. They sort of moved on to other forms of transportation, for better or for worse. And so you can see I'm kind of following along here. And what I'm trying to do is find a particular location that I think we're going to focus on today. And it's pretty long. It's like a mile and a half, 1.45 miles or something like, or is that kilometers? If it would be kilometers, it wouldn't be that long. But okay, so right here is where I thought was really interesting. So having been there myself, there's this little observation deck that kind of just sits and juts out over the road. And it's really cool because what it does is you've got sort of it's split like green on one side, and it's stairs and a stramp and stadium seating on another. And if I kind of show you just for context here, if I can drop myself not onto the ground, this is the trick with this. I want to drop myself onto the deck itself. I'm gonna try one last time before I quit, before I give up, because it was doing this to me earlier. Okay, come on, little Google guy. You need to go right there, or else I'm gonna get mad. Okay, this is the best we're gonna do. This is where I kind of want to focus on because we're not gonna be able to do the whole thing. It's way too long. We're going to kind of just take a little segment of it. And I thought this is kind of interesting because I've actually been here, and the cars, you sit on this little amphitheater and the cars go underneath you. And it's just this really kind of interesting experience to be up above the road. Really interesting way to experience New York City if you have not been there. In fact, anybody been there? I'm going to put this away. I'm going to hide this for right now. We're going to get to modeling. So you can throw
So
your
you say it's an
comments in.
amphitheater. Does that mean that there are people that will sit there and play music and whatnot specifically at that spot?
I don't know. I think if it's the amphitheater, it feels like the stage is the road for some reason because you're looking out this glass. It's almost like a movie theater where it's like you're not really meant to at a movie theater get up on stage, so to speak. You're just there to watch. So I've already geolocated. Yeah. As always, Donovan, interrupt me. I'm just going to talk, and then anytime comment comes in, just stop me, and I want to engage with you guys too at home. So I'm going to check here
What I'm here for.
geolocation. Yep, that's what you're here for. So That's why we do this as a team. I've already geolocated it. I just did that because I felt like I just wanted to kind of have some stuff ready to go today so we can get right into it. And I got 2 images that I think at least are somewhat helpful. One of them is an elevation, and that's going to be really good because we're working with grade changes. We're up in the air. So knowing, and because we're changing grade along that sort of part of the High Line. And the other thing I'm going to want to work with is this paving module here. I've got my, if I turn my X-ray mode off, you can see it a little bit better. So this paving module is kind of iconic, and it's based off of the railroad ties that used to be up there. So I'm going to be building some of those. And then of course that module is really cool too, because as you move along the High Line, that module sort of becomes other things. It becomes other parts of the park. So that's the kind of things we're going to do today. So, and if we're lucky, depending on how far we get, I would love to put some plants into it, because if you just had the concrete and the wood, I don't know, to me, it feels like it's missing something. So I'm going to get into it.
What would an Eric model be without plants?
Without plants. I know. It's like I got to represent my background, my peeps, my landscape folks. So for those that know, for me, when I trace stuff, sometimes I like to just change my color. Sometimes I'll change my profiles. I'll kind of push this up. And I actually have a tracing style built into my template. So if I click on this one right here, it should be called drafting. And what that means is that it's built around the idea of tracing stuff. So once I'm done kind of tracing over an image, I'll switch off and go back to my normal drafting. The other thing I want to do is probably lock the image. So I'll group it and I'll lock it. That way I won't accidentally delete this. All right. So this first part, Donovan, I'm just going to trace this here. I've already scaled this image, so I know it's to scale. I'm just going to trace it. So, yeah, let me know what's going on in the chat while I just kind of get something to start with.
Yeah, we got other people chiming in from London, from Copenhagen, Denmark, Vancouver, Washington. A couple people have said that they have been there and it's wonderful. One person said that they went, but it was raining, so mixed experiences, I guess, depending on the weather. We have people from Brazil, of course, here in the U.S. A lot of shout outs to the regulars that are here in the chat. You know who you are. You're here all the time with us.
That's interesting. Sorry, Donovan, to interrupt you there. This is 36.25 as my sort of landing elevation. But when I go 36.25 foot and bring it down, what it's doing is actually bringing me below grade. So what this means is that when they do the spot elevations, they're not saying from top of street up. They're saying from top of sea level up. So they're treating that as 0. So just letting you know that it's actually, if you check the dimension of the height, if I check that, it would be 28 foot 8 inches, which says that they say it averages 30 feet high. So that actually tracks. That's pretty close to what I've read in the news, so to speak. So now the trick is with that is that if I'm going in with spot elevations, it means that I'm drawing from I'm drawing from this line down here. So this is now my new 0 line. Does that make sense?
Comment came in from YouTube saying grouping an image with something else to lock it. That's clever.
Yeah, so folks, when you do that, it's because now if you bring an image in, you can actually, if you explode it, you can just actually group the image itself, because now it's turned into loose geometry. It has edges and faces. But if you don't explode it, and the reason why I don't like to explode it is because sometimes what I'll do is draw, for those of you that have seen me stream before, you know that what I'll do is I'll draw on top of it, maybe add a color or something like that. And then I'll end up drafting in monochromatic mode. So you can see what happens here. When I go to monochrome or hidden line style, sorry, not monochrome, hidden line style, you can see the location snapshot, which comes in as an image, it comes in as a texture, it disappears. So textures disappear. So I actually prefer not to explode my images by default, because in that way I could go to hidden line style anytime I want. And then otherwise I have to go back, and yeah, I don't like that. Yeah. Thanks for that note. Yeah, if I'm doing anything and I'm not calling out what I'm doing or why, then obviously please ask. 30.15 foot. So what I'm trying to do is just kind of generally figure out what these grades are, and so that I'm being accurate, and I may have to decide like how accurate, because I don't know, maybe better to be less accurate, just go a little faster. So what I'm doing is I'm lifting these up from that 0 point, that sea level, 33.69, and I'm giving myself 33.69 feet, right? That's why decimal system is better, because you don't need to enter that feet and inches. You just enter in the number, 26.65. 26.
And all of that would be contingent on the scale, the size of the image that you're using, right?
Yeah, so this is scaled. So I just used the number. They give you 1.6 for the seat wall, 1 foot 6 inches or 18 inches. So I just used a known scale that's in there. And I said, okay, I'm going to use that as my fixed point. Now I'm going to do this column here, and I'm going to make this a component because it repeats 1 foot 5 inches. And if I need to change that, I will. So for right now, I'm just going to make this just a generic column, make that a component, not worry about naming it. We're going pretty quick. And then usually with this kind of stuff, I'll look at it first and I'll say, well, 34 feet, 11 and a half inches. Well, is that really the dimension, or is it probably 35 feet? So I'll enter in 35 as opposed to just place it, because I actually feel I feel more confident knowing that. In this case, I can stretch this up. I'll stretch this one up to this column up to the bottom. Yeah, right there. Yeah. Whoops. Did I actually?
Yeah, something that people are talking about in the chat. SketchUp has had a new update.
Oh, yeah.
So one thing, if you haven't already done so, be sure to update it, because there's new features like snaps that are in the new update that you should definitely check out if you haven't done so already.
And if I can show off, I might show off some snaps or some of those features. I'll make sure to call those out. I think the biggest one right now for people is probably just the UI that everyone's noticing, is that it's going to look a little different. If you look at the icons, you'll notice my eraser tool right here. It's not pink anymore. It's blue. And I will say change is hard, but I also will say that I'm a shortcut person by nature. So I do keep all my icons up because I think it's important for when we're training. When someone's first learning SketchUp, I'll try to use the icons, but when we're doing these live streams, you'll see I'm almost using exclusively shortcuts, which is why the key caster that I use is helpful as well. 36.15. I'm going to treat this, just for sake of fun, I'm going to treat this whole landing as flat, because the reason why is because there is going to be a cross slope on it, but I'll deal with that later. I'm just going to pretend like these landings, you'll notice that I'm just going to ignore that little half inch sort of. It's probably just one of those sloped drains kind of thing. And that starts to get pretty particular. 1.5 feet. Nope, that's not it. 1 foot. Yeah, there we go. That's a 1 foot tread. So in this case, just kind of getting myself something to work with here. Times 2. And then I have to think about what the height is. The height of a typical stair tread should be 6 inches. So I'm just going to double check that. It is 7 inches. That's okay. Let's go with 7. I'm going to go with 7. 7 times 3. There we go. So I may want to go back later and make the stairs a component, but for right now, I'm just going to kind of get something as my base for this thing, and then I may end up sort of removing this piece and then making them a component once I get into plan view. That's actually interesting. So one thing I could do too is I could figure out where this cut is occurring. Excuse me. If I wanted to, I could come over here, and I'm trying to think of how to do this. This is why I like to prepare, because then I actually know what I'm doing, as opposed to just have you watch me sit here like this. It's my thinking phase. Because we have this in plan view and we have this in elevation view. So, but we also have the ability to change. If I wanted to shift this here, I could take this all and rotate it like this, so that when I'm drawing it actually, I'm not drawing it off to the side, but I'm drawing it where it belongs. And I'll show you what I mean here in just a second. Now the problem with this is that you have, if I go to top view, you can see I'm looking straight down on it. That's kind of the challenge. So one thing I like to do is I'll make this a component. I'll make it a component, and then I'll copy this over, and I'll copy it up 90 degrees. Are you with me? And then I'll move this.
I'm with you.
And I'll move this into place over here where it belongs on the plan view. So if I kind of look at this, I know this corner here, it lines up with this edge right here. A little blurry as I get close. I know that's that. So the cool thing about that is I could also then come in and, if I wanted to just for fun, just sync this for the moment. So if I wanted to, we could start low and present that this is the bottom of the image and then work our way up, or we can start high and work our way down. It just depends on whether you want to sink below grade or whether you want to push pull up. Sometimes it's easier, I've found, to pull things up than it is to push things down, but totally a preference. Cool thing about making
what situations would you do the working from the top down rather than bottom up?
It's just because you have if depending on your style, if you have the ground showing, like if I have ground and I push down into the ground, then you're going to see it. You'll see the ground through it. So if you wanted to show something below like 0 grade, so that might be a situation where you'd want to work above rather than go down below grade. So, yeah. So now I'm trying to think here. I'm going to take this module and I'm going to make this sort of a module and the reason why is because, so how tall do you think that is? 1.5 foot. Yeah, I'm going to say that's 18 inches. So I'm curious as to people, do you guys have to do, this is the fun part. It's the thinking while modeling, right? It's one thing if it's your model, you can make it whatever you want, but if you're modeling something from drawings, you got to do a lot of thinking. So thinking and modeling is kind of actually hard to do. 2 foot.
Somebody chimed in from LinkedIn, said, if you don't already know, the High Line extends to the skyline now via the spiral. 66 Hudson.
I don't think I knew that.
Google the spiral in New York City. It's an amazing idea and a beautiful project.
The spiral in New York City. Should we Google that? We'll have to come back to that right now because I want to stay on seat walls as much fun as... so the spiral is, I know the vessel. I know that's a little bit different though. That one's in the Hudson Yards.
Nobody's chimed in to say it yet, but you might as well save.
You know what? That's a great idea. I appreciate that. We're gonna save this High Line. So what I need here is anything I know is it's going to repeat. I'm just making it a component for right now. So like in this case, oh, I see. I've got a little stray edge there. That's why my bounding box is being funny. So right now I'm still in elevation view, which is a little bit, kind of like, okay, let's get out of elevation view, but you have to have enough. I have to have enough to work with before I can switch to plan view, because you know what I mean? Like I need to make sure that I've got some faces that can be extruded. So you can see here what I mean by this is by doing this in 2 ways, I can now come over here when I feel comfortable and I can say, well, I'm going to take this and I'm going to, if I wanted to, extrude this out like that. Now the problem is that my image disappears when I do that. This is the challenge with, I may end up copying this, doing the opposite, which is copying my image and bringing this inside of my group, which is a little bit weird. But then that way when I'm working on pulling this stuff out, I'm doing it. Yeah, I'm going to do this. I'm going to hide this. Whoops, I didn't mean to hide everything. I meant to hide just it's different shortcuts. I just said 2 seconds ago that
I mean, it did what you wanted it to do.
So this is going to be I'm going to call this my AXO view. So I'm going to update this. And then what I'm going to do is unhide this here. And I will go into plan view. And I will create a scene called plan view. So that way I can bounce back and forth between the two. Plan. Rename plan. All right, so AXO and plan. There we go. All right. So back to plan. What is the plan? The plan is to finish kind of mocking up just the straight elevation, and then I'm going to take all this stuff here. Let's see here. I'm just going to create this. I'm not going to worry about all the subflooring. I'm not going to worry about any of the support structures. We're not going to go into detail what's happening below the surface. We want to just think about this as just the surface and above. All right, so we're going to got another seat wall module. I'm going to bring that over here, and I'm not worried about the horizontal dimensions because those will just work themselves out eventually. So I'm just going to kind of line it up with the image.
So Ben from LinkedIn said, I have to say you guys are awesome. I don't get to model as much these days, and watching you all model live and share it with the industry would have been so nice back in the day.
Yeah, thanks, Ben. Appreciate it for watching and all. Oh, that's weird. See, this is the problem with 3D when you do this in 3D. So I'm probably going to just come in here and just remove that part of the component and stay in 2D until I'm done. Yeah, this is, I mean, I would totally watch these. I didn't get to watch these learning the software either, but like watching Aaron and, seeing how he handles stuff, especially when things don't go, according to plan, which occasionally they don't go according to plan. And also the fact that you get to join us, you get to ask the questions. If there's something that we're kind of going over a little too fast, or if you're like, hey, why did you do it that way? I mean, this is a chance to sort of participate in that process, which is pretty cool. And this one I probably want to...
So shout outs to people. There are... Oh, go ahead.
No, go ahead. No, you fill the time. I'm just going to move the stairs. I just need these stairs. So I'm going to just copy them. I'm just going to bring them over here. That's all.
I was just going to say we got people that are coming in from Canada. We do have Canada up in the house. Up north, too.
Welcome.
Bangladesh is another one. Again, international audience. It amazes me every time we do these lives and to see where everybody is from. Germany, Maryland. Yeah, just all over. Another from Brazil. This is great.
Yeah, we're glad to have you. Because I'm pretending not to get to the cross slopes, I'm going to have to cheat this a little bit. And the reason why is I'm going to make the stair treads a little bit higher so I don't have to do a cross slope on my horizontal. So just going to be a little visual trick. Going to be a little higher than 7 inches. I made that a group first because I was stretching it. And if I did that, I would stretch all the geometry. So at some point in time, we'll explode all this stuff. We'll do some exploding, which is going to be kind of cool. Like that game, Exploding Kittens. You ever play that one? Donovan, are you a card game person?
We play card games in my house every day. And that's not that's not exaggeration. Every day. We haven't, as a family, we haven't gotten into Exploding Kittens yet because I think my kids are a little bit too young for it. But one day, Exploding Kittens will be in my house. I have had the opportunity to play with friends, and it's the company that makes the Exploding Kittens and all of their subsequent games that they've come out with. There's probably like 30 or 40 now. Are all just fantastic. They do a great job.
Yeah. So I'm just going to start exploding stuff here. Now I'm at a point where I'm ready to kind of clean this up and just start, I want to kind of get out of this elevation, this tracing mode that I'm in right now and start actually turning some stuff into 3D. But I needed something to work with. I needed something. Otherwise it's like, how do you do this? You don't have something to start with. So anytime I get a line, so I'm really wanting to make sure, ultimately, I'm also going to have to hide my faces, hide this. Sometimes it helps here if you wanted to change, you can either change your background style or you can change your face style. In this case, if I wanted to do like a gray or something like that, I could use like a dark gray. And what that would do is it would tell me when my faces are filled in. So the problem I have is when I like modeling on a white background rather, because when you go monochrome, everything turns white. And then if you do that, if you have a gray background and you go monochrome, everything turns gray. So instead I do the opposite. I actually turns my faces gray and I leave everything else white. So this just tells me here, like, okay, well, I was doing some cleanup and I need to go in and just make sure that all of the stuff is faces. So I'm exploding all those. I didn't really need to make them all components, but whenever I have something repeat, I make them a component. So, yeah. I don't know if that's going to bite me in the butt, but at least I could still remake the component. It would just be that, in this case, yeah, I know where.
I mean, why would it bite you in the butt?
Well,
just out of curiosity.
Because like if I wanted to apply a texture to one component, if I wanted to modify, like add a beveled edge or something, like once I get into 3D, if I just extrude these each as their individual raw geometry, then any changes I make to a seat wall, like if I want to bring up an inch, then I have to do that manually to each one. What happened here? Ooh.
Yeah. Somebody did make a comment that I want to kind of call out. We do have a forum for all things SketchUp, where we post updates. Community talks about different issues or questions or projects that they're working on, and so people are shouting out that they've put stuff in the forum thread for this post. So if you don't already, it's forums.sketchup.com. You can go and sign up for an account there and join the conversation on the forums. Get notified with updates, ask questions, all that kind of stuff we're all very, very active on the forum. So you'll be able to get in contact with all the SketchUp people that we got here, Eric included.
Yep, you'll see me there. Forum is a great spot too, beyond our live stream information. Yeah, if you need some help, anytime we do an announcement on anything, it's going to go to the forum. So that's kind of just where we send people whenever they get stuck on something. All right, I'm going to see, as long as I have a face for each of these pieces here, right? I lost this piece because I copied it as a component. So instead, I'm just going to cheat it at this point. I'm just going to say, you know what, just trace it, and then let's just move on. So I'm going to trace this. Make sure my edges line up at least. That might give me some trouble later. Make sure like that stair step lines up. Make sure these pieces line up. So I'm using my own geometry. I'm referencing my own geometry rather than just like tracing what shows in the image. That's kind of just a little bit of a trick. A little best practice. Okay, so if I was really smart too, I would come over here and I would just create a tag and I would just call this X image or something like that, or X freeze. And then I would place this image on that, because in that way I don't have to hide it and unhide it. I would just turn it off, and then I would say, okay, good. So let's go with that. Okay, I need that. I need this last piece filled in. I need these last pieces filled in, and the reason why is because that's the glass that you're going to look out of, and then this is sort of the wall in the background here. And this is probably just a complex shape. So if I just break it, usually sometimes if you have a really complex shape, SketchUp just doesn't know how to turn that into one face. And so you just do that in just a few pieces like this, like bing, 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 and you're good to go. All right, I think that's it. Now I'm gonna explode that one too, because I've already exploded all the other ones. Save. So we're gonna come back. This is the area, the observation deck part of the High Line, and then I'm gonna come in. We're gonna do the decking. We're gonna do the benches. We're gonna do these cool little modular concrete. We're gonna lay out some of the walkway, and then we're gonna put some planting in. So we've got quite a bit to do, and we're 28 minutes in. The hard part is this setup. The hardest part is this part. It's this thinking part. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I know what you mean.
All right. So now
Kind of reminds me of Matt's T-shirt, "Fix it in pre." Like you got to do all the setup work, the pre-work.
Yeah, but now think about fixing in pre. I don't know where my image went. I might have to go get another one. I might have to come over here to geolocation. I may have accidentally deleted my geolocation. I don't think I locked it.
Are you inside a component? Because it looks like your access went off too.
No, I don't think so. Nope, I'm outside of it. Yeah. See?
Oh.
Yeah, if I turn all my textures on and stuff. There's my location. Oh, another way to do this, actually, a better way to do this would be not to go back to geolocation. Come on. Would be just to get the bounding box of what I think the area that I want to work in, like that. And then I come over here to my location terrain. So you see the terrain has a little bit of 3D to it. Grab that and then just paste that image right on top. So there we go. Now we're back. So that's a little way that I don't have to go back into SketchUp. So what I want to do here is I want to turn off this image, and I'm going to come back to this one here. So I'm going to turn this one off as well. And then for some of you who don't, I actually model quite a bit. I like to model in axonometric mode in parallel projection. So I think some people, maybe it's easier to see. So I'll try to do this for you, which is to model in perspective. So what we need to do is pull all this stuff out to here, which is going to be the tricky bit because we're at an angle. So if I just kind of traced what I know the bounding box is, I'm going to go to here, and I'm just guessing at this point because I don't have any plan view information. I know that there's a walkway that runs along this edge, and I know that we're going to go all the way. We're going to sort of take our decking all the way to, actually we're going to go to, I think the decking goes to here. So there we go. That's what we're going to do. Yep. And I'm going to come over here to, I'm just going to bring those down so they sit flush. There we go. So
Ben again over on LinkedIn is doing a great job, sharing his thoughts and opinions on SketchUp of being a great design tool, a powerful tool for solving design and construction problems, modeling and making sure everything about the design works, meets the needs and expectations of the clients, avoids any construction challenges. This is such a needed skill in the AEC industry, and SketchUp is such a great tool. Thank you, Ben. We think so too.
Yeah. So speaking of, good. I like it when you talk for a few minutes, Donovan, because it lets me think about what I'm doing. I swear. So for people who have seen me live model, like I shouldn't have to apologize, like for being who I am, but like I do better when I'm prepared because it means that I follow my script. And my wife tells me this: when you go off script, Eric, you tend to not do as well. And so I will say that. So again, I don't want to apologize, but I will say that like you have to kind of struggle through with me for a little bit. What I'm trying to do is figure out, I need to slice this off, but it's not a solid. I would use solid tools and then just delete this. So instead, what I'm going to do is probably just grab this as a cutting plane, pop in here, and then, I don't know, select all of this here and say intersect with selection. In fact, I may want to explode this first, which I would usually say be careful when you're exploding stuff. And I'm going to switch my style back to just my normal style.
Why do you want to explode it first?
Well, because I'm going to use that. I'm going to use that edge. So I'm going to right click everything and I'm going to say intersect with selection, not with model, because you have to be careful. And then that's why, because if it's exploded, then it's going to interact with both this and this. So what I would do is sometimes just grab this piece here. You're going to see here in just a second. I want to grab this face. That's why. So I'm going to copy that. And then I want to get rid of all of this stuff. And I'm going to use my group delete technique so I don't lose anything that it was touching. Group delete, that's my sort of technique, and paste in place. So paste in place, because what I wanted was this little piece here. So now there is a stramp that goes down this piece, but I don't know, I have to decide. I may want to come back to that, because what's going to happen is that we're going to cut into this and we're going to need to do a stramp, but it's going to be a little bit difficult for me to see. And the reason why is because if you look at the location snapshot, if I just kind of hide this for a second, it's kind of like, it's a little blurry, to be honest with you. I know that there's a stramp that cuts through there. And I think, but I'd have to switch to a photograph and see that, see, I made a big mistake. The stairs only come down one side. This is why you look at the photographs first. The stairs are not the whole thing. The whole thing is a stramp, and the stairs only come down to one side. So I have to unfortunately undo quite a bit of that. I will leave this. I will go all the way up into where I had a cutting plane. I will leave my cutting plane because I think I'm still going to need this cutting plane. So I'll just kind of group that, copy it, and then I'm going to undo that extrusion that I pulled. Look at all my Command C's that you see with my keycaster. It's a lot. You can do up to 100. For those that don't know this, you can go up to 100 undos.
So you copied it because even though you undo, you can still paste.
Yes.
At any point.
It doesn't. Yes. So that's a good point. I can come over here and paste in place, and that cutting plane. So that's kind of fun. Sometimes I'll go in advance, get a piece that I need, almost like a time machine, go back in time, do something, and then paste in place that thing that I needed in a future step, right? I don't actually need that thing in the future. I don't actually want that, but I need it now. So I go back in time. So I copy from myself and then go undo. You can also obviously do a save as and then go work into a separate model, but I'd rather just work in the same model. So what I needed to do, and I made a mistake, what I needed to do was do these stairs separately because they only show up on one part of they only show up on that first walkway bit, and then from there they stop. So I'm actually grouping the stairs separate from the rest of this geometry. So if I was smart, I would have done that. I would have looked at the image, the reference photo before. Fun times. Okay, so I could also do there is a new, hey, I'm gonna try a new feature. There is a lasso select tool, which I hear is kind of cool. So I may be able to come over here and just lasso select those. That didn't work. I think it's because I had to go this way.
So the lasso select is whatever it touches, correct?
Yep. So if I'm trying to do this really kind of tight, irregular space, like these stairs, I could just take that. And so what I want to do is basically, I don't know where my stairs. Donovan, this is where I need help.
What did I do?
No, you didn't do anything. I'm just going to do another version of this. I'm going to come back to that because I'm going to need it. And I'm just going to come into this version of it, and I'm just going to pull all the stairs out completely. And I'll just go back to my other version later. Okay. Right, folks? See what I'm throwing down? What I want to do is I just want to pull. This is tough. This is tough because we're working at an angle. We're working in plan view and elevation view at the same time. So this is what I'm trying to get to here. And then what we have to do is I'm going to have to pull some of these surfaces down. That's going to create the stramp. And then what I'm going to do is come over here, and I'm just going to get rid of all this stuff because I already have it saved in the other one. So almost like I needed to do this in several pieces. Yeah, hope this is fun for everyone at home, or if you guys are, because it's, hope this is, learn from my mistakes. This is how we do this on SketchUp Live. Learn from what I'm doing. In some cases, it may not work for you at home, folks.
I mean, honestly, if there's one thing that we've learned from Live is that people enjoy the struggle. So it's okay. I've learned that the struggle is okay because ultimately people enjoy watching us struggle.
Yes. You know what? Also, misery does love company, I hear. So I'm really I'm glad to have everybody at home with me as I kind of go through this process, or process, as they say, for our Canadian viewers that are with us today. All right. So what I'm doing here is I'm going to want to do this in a couple different pieces. Why am I losing a face? And I know people are saying I have reverse faces. So a fun way to check that is sometimes it's hard to tell. If you come over to shadows, you can actually pull your darkness and lightness sliders all the way down. And you can see that when I did that extrusion, everything is reversed. So I may want to just fix that now, is just go in and reverse all of those. The blues should be for those that, I'm trying to see.
Why isn't that closing though?
Why isn't that one closing? It's almost like it's interacting with something. Sometimes there's a line, something there that just you can't see, and I just wonder if is it interacting with something? Sometimes it interacts with hidden geometry. So if we go back to this plan view here, now I go in here and I grab this group. First thing I need to do is check this dimension. This is the stair here. These are the stairs. So I just kind of need to check. I have no idea. It's pretty blurry. 4 foot, I could guess. Is that a 4 foot stair? Yeah, I'm going to go with 4 foot. So then what I would do is come over here back to my axo view. Styles, set that, turn that on, update, boop, and update. Okay, so from here I would want to come in here and push this 4 feet. And then I would come over here and find where's the one that I copied, Donovan?
I don't know. Where'd it go?
Remember how I hid? Did you remember how I hid one?
Yeah.
Well,
Are you going to pull up an old save
we
point?
might
Or?
be able to go into an archive based on when I last saved it, and go in and grab this one here, the one with the stairs. And then if I was, see this, and then I come over here and I just paste that right in place. Now, because it's a component, if I go into this group and paste that in place, you'll notice what happens.
Peggy's asking, is it still hidden?
No, I just turned on my hidden geometry, which I can show you. View, hidden geometry, view, hidden objects. They're both on. The only other thing I may have done is accidentally assigned it to a different tag. But no, it disappeared. You know what that means? So I probably deleted it. It's okay. It's okay, folks. All right. Are we okay with that?
Yep. Are you okay with that?
I need you to say yes right now, Donovan. I need your
If
help.
you're okay with that, I'm okay with that.
Okay, folks, let's do this then. Let's go back here. I'm going to copy this. I'm going to go back. I'm going to do this step again. I'm going to explode this. I'm going to select all of these two things here, intersect faces with model. I'm going to grab that face, copy it. This I want to do a group delete. And this one I have to be really careful with. I don't get stuff that I don't want to. Group delete. Paste in place. And we're okay. We're back. Salvaged.
Nice recovery.
Nice recovery. Okay. Now I got to figure out this stramp because there's no actual. Let's go back and look at our reference image. The stramp goes down on the other side. Right? So in a way, it starts on one side and it curves and it goes around the backside, which means that some of these seat walls would not go all the way. They couldn't go all the way. It would need to stop 4 feet prior. So where would you be if you were a stramp? I would say that you'd have to come down here. And you'd have to come down, and I'm going to use my inference locking to go down. Nope, not that one. There. And I would come to this point here. And then this one needs to come back. Oh, maybe you want to do that the other way around. It's probably easier to... Here, let me recenter this for you so it's easier for you to see at home, folks. I wish I could hear from the audience. I wish they could just shout out in real time and be like, no, that doesn't work. Don't do it that way. Have you tried this?
That would be interesting to have a live where we have live audience participation.
I would
Might get a
live
little chaotic,
audience
but I'm sure we'd
participation
manage.
So this is a trick here. Now, the problem is that with this is that when you go down, it's going to hold. It's going to hold. It's sticky, right? So what you may want to do is take this and this, take what is the ramp, just basically take, let's see here. It may be better to come in here and just grade it the old-fashioned way. So what I mean by the old-fashioned way is just to come in here and grab a line and just start the top of slope and then come all the way down. We know it needs to go to there. And then if you're wondering where this is, sometimes it's as simple as a single line, and sometimes it's more complex and it needs to be, you need to do something like sandbox from contours. But I'm calling that. So you have to also think about where the landing is. So if this landing is flat here, then I can erase that line. You guys, you didn't know you were going to get a grading lesson at home today. You guys thought we were doing like plants and concrete pavers and stuff, but no, you're going to get a grading lesson, like it or not.
You know, honestly, doing lives with you for as long as I have, I always know that there's always more to learn than just what you're modeling.
Yeah, it's like, well, I'm an educator as well, and I have kids, so like in some ways I want to like enlighten. I have go back and forth between like threatening. You're going to learn something whether you like it or not. But that's like, is that my parent mode or is that my teacher mode? Yeah, you're going to get something. You're going to get some grades. So now this is interesting because I don't know what this is. it makes me think that there's like a little foot platform, almost like so that as the stramp goes down, your feet can stay level. I'm guessing that that's what that is. I don't remember, to be honest. I was there, but I don't remember. So I am just going to kind of just cheat this and just make what may or may not be ADA. I'm pretty sure that is, we're going to call that ADA. Okay.
Ahmad from the YouTube comments says, can we just toggle the auto folding off?
I don't know. Can we?
It's above my pay grade. I don't know. I don't know.
Well, where's like Aaron and Tyson? Are they with us today?
I haven't seen him yet.
Well, because when you say above pay grade, I mean, they both have their legacy, they're old school. They know all those things that, I should know. And I don't. I just kind of like, I know what I know. I know what works. Sometimes. Okay, so this bench is okay to go all the way here. And the reason why it's okay to do that is because so that one I can't erase because that is a grade change. So that one needs to stay there, and that one has to be hidden. Okay. All right, folks, we've got a couple more of these ramps here. We're almost at the hour. I want to finish the stramp, and then I'm gonna spend the next maybe 20 minutes doing the shell of the amphitheater, so it's walled in, and then we're gonna have some fun. We're gonna spend the last second half doing pavings and plants and furnishing. So we're gonna kind of build out the actual High Line, the linear path part of this. So just want to say thanks for everybody for staying with us. And if you're just joining us, welcome. We're doing the High Line today. We're doing this part of the High Line. We are doing, if you didn't catch the beginning, we're doing this really cool part of the High Line right here. It's called the observation deck. And you're up high, and then you drop down low, and you're able to see the cars. And you have all kinds of cool things. You have furnishings and trees and places to hang out. And you have the stairs and a stramp and art and all kinds of cool plants. That's what we're doing. All right.
That concept seems very humorous to me, that there is an observation deck for you to watch traffic.
Yeah, it feels a bit silly. Okay, so this one has to go down here. So this one has to come over 4 feet, and then that has to come down. It's actually kind of cool, to be honest with you. Like, I'm like probably the last person who would sit and want to watch cars, but it's actually, because if you know anything about me, my background's in urban design, and part of my job is to get people out of their cars. My past life, actually it's not a past life because it's still important. It's still an important part. That's part of why, I started using SketchUp is as a designer, being able to communicate ideas and being able to sell concepts, and especially with something that's new or foreign or scary, I think SketchUp just does such a great job at being able to say, hey, I'm taking this really complex idea and I'm breaking it down in a way that is really easy for you to understand. Yeah.
Kagi chimed in and said, what's a stramp?
Stramp is a combination of it's a ramp and a stair. So a stramp, the ramp actually crisscrosses the stairs. So the stairs go up and the ramp cuts through it. So this is not really a stramp because it's more like a stadium seating. It's cutting through stadium seating. So it might be I don't know. I don't even want to know what the acronym is for that. I guess stadium and stair might be the same thing. Yeah. Hey, Kegi, how are you, man? Doing good?
He said thanks.
Yeah. Stramp is, sorry, I shouldn't assume people know that. That's a good, keep those questions coming. I shouldn't assume you know that. It's stair and a ramp. And this one here.
Deb31 from YouTube says, look up Robson Square or Arthur Erickson.
Yep, good point. Robson Square. Ramp. That was like, I think one of the first ones. I think that was, I don't know if it was like, it's pretty iconic. Yeah, look up Robson Square. That's in Vancouver.
So you've been here. Does that mean that there is a sketch in your sketchbook of this particular view or area or something like that?
No, I don't think I was drawing. Oh, no, I did have my sketchbook. I was with my son. I have a picture of me and my son, and he's holding a stuffed monkey that he got at the top of the Empire State Building. wearing the an I Heart NYC shirt. And yeah, I took my son and we walked the entire length of the High Line. He walked, I was telling Donovan this before, my son was I think 6 at the time, and he's got way more energy than I do. He walked all the way from the Natural History Museum to Brooklyn in one afternoon. We walked from the Natural History Museum. If anyone knows how far that is. I was exhausted, and he's just like, let's keep going. It's like, dude. All right, so we're down now here. We're almost done. And now we turn the corner, and we have to come down this way. So we're going to come over 4 foot, because that's the kind of what I'm giving myself here as the sort of our distance. And then, oh wait, that's not right here, is it? Because I can't make, oh, I know why. This one has to come down. Sir, this one has to come down to there. And then this can come over because we're coming down this one. So we're going to grab this one and we're going to grab that. Yeah, if anyone's ever done grading in SketchUp, actually, it's not even SketchUp. If anyone just grades anything ever, you'll find that there's always just fun challenges with grading. I want this one to come down here. This needs to be there. No. Yeah, that's
Randy
right.
from YouTube is asking about, does this give it wheelchair accessibility?
Yes. Actually, I don't know. I mean, technically, yes, but I mean, if you're going to do it proper, you need handrails. I mean, you need rails, and I don't think, if you look at the image on this one, it doesn't have them the full length of the ramp, so it may not technically qualify as ADA accessible, even though, yes, it would provide accessibility. So the question is whether or not it is, accessible under the law or accessible under intent, which may not be the same thing. So this one is this little tiny ramp down here. And then that one can go away. And okay, so you've got this little landing here, and you kind of do that, you kind of turn the corner. Although actually I'm going to undo that because we need to turn more than just the corner. We actually have to turn, this whole thing has to come flat. Yeah, how do I get this to inference? That goes there, and then that goes. Sometimes if I can't get something to inference right, I just copy it. I just take this over here and I just go bing and just slide it over.
Interesting.
So Donovan, what kind of stuff are you modeling lately? What kind of stuff are you working on? You always have some cool projects going on.
Yeah. In our house, we have a 2-story house, and under the stairs where they usually, when they construct houses, and there's that area under the stairs that they put a coat closet. For some odd reason, when they built this house, they finished out that entire area. So it goes down and back and like under the initial part of the stairs. And so right now what I'm doing is taking my iPad and going in this little space under the stairs and measuring everything out. Because one of the projects I'm going to be working on before Christmas is to make a hobbit hole that the door will be in the living room, on the living room side of it. And the kids can open up the hobbit hole door and go into this under the stairs area. And I'm going to wall it off to make it, a coat closet, but then save that area back behind so that my kids have like a little, a hidden play place just for them. So.
Well, that sounds insane.
Yeah. So that's what I'm modeling right now.
So what have you learned? What has kind of SketchUp taught you about, like, what have you learned in the modeling process? Oh no, this doesn't look right because this ramp's supposed to take us here, but we've got one step in the way. I'm just going to ignore that. I'm going to keep going. We're going to pretend that little last little step there isn't there. It's our little secret.
Randy from YouTube says, I've been modeling Jerry Seinfeld's apartment.
Oh, get out of here. I've always wanted to do the Simpsons house, and I'm sure somebody else has either done it or tried it, but I just want to tell myself, like, hey, don't let them already having done it, like, stop you.
That could be a live topic, modeling the Simpsons house.
I think it would be like 7 though, because I mean, where would you start?
I know, right?
You'd have to
I
start
mean, you
like
could just do the
just the
exterior, but there's
yeah, and then you have to be like, well, I could just do the kitchen. You can spend. It's kind of like what we're doing here. You end up spending more time just looking at the image, thinking, okay, there's carrot curtains, and there's curtains here, and then okay, so how many cupboards are there? 1, 2, 3, 4, and then you end up, yeah. All right. All right, I'm saving it. I'm calling it. We built a stramp, everyone. Thanks. Where's Matt and his sound effects? Okay, now let's go ahead and put
applause,
on.
applause.
Let's turn on. I did lose that little bit there, so I am going to do the wall. I'm going to grab it from my little archived version. So I am going to grab this from here, group it, copy it, come over here. Luckily, everything's in the same place. I just go ahead and go into my component, paste it in place, and then there it is. It shows up magically in my Axo view. Like magic. Whoa, cool. Dig it. I'm with you. Cool thing about this is that, I like going in between components, and so if I wanted to work outside of that group or that component, I can paste that in place. So I only used it to transfer it from my reference image into my 3D, and then from there I'm like, okay, now once it's in there, I don't need it. I'd rather have this in my 3D space here. So in this case, what I want to do is pull this out. I hope this is pretty straightforward part of the process. I know there's a little upper landing. If you look at the reference image, I'm going to go ahead and ignore that for right now just to keep going. There is kind of an upper area, but we can always add that. I'm just going to pretend like that isn't there because you can't even really see it in this image anyway. So I'm just going to model this as if that's just the main area. So I think,
interesting. Randy chimed back in and said he is creating I guess he's doing Jerry Seinfeld's apartment to create a VR version that you can walk around in.
Really?
That's a cool application.
Yeah, I want to go in there. What I'm doing here is I'm grouping all of these. And the reason why is because when I pull this over, I want to have them separate from each other. So it's much easier to do this when they're in 2D to group something than it is to select all this geometry and group it after the fact. So I want to keep these pieces because these pieces are separate from each other. They're different elements. And for example, like this one right here is glass. So I'm just going to set that as glass now so we can already see that that's going to be sort of the glass part of it. Cool, eh?
Very cool.
Cool. And then if we wanted to do some color, which we don't have to, but I am someone who likes to work in color, we can look at this idea that, I think the frame is black and there is 1, 2, 3 sort of internal dividers. So I want to do that. The elevation won't show that. The other thing the elevation doesn't show is that there's sort of enclosed. So I might come over here and just do something like this. Just drag that, and I'm just going to make up a dimension. I don't know what that should be. So I'm going to move that there, make it a component, enter it. I can't even see it. I'm going to pull it anyway. And then I'm going to come over here, and then I'm just going to start making the frame any of the frame elements black. And that's a component. So the cool thing one thing I like to do is kind of what I call lazy modeling, which is sometimes I'll take this component, I'll drag it over, divide this by 3, and then these ones may actually be different. So what I could do is I just start with one component, and then I'll just make it unique. And then from there, I can take that and scale it. How do I want to do this? Scale it by 0.75, and then come over here and just scale this by 0.75. So I'm using the same component just for ease. And I think this is glass too. It's hard. Sometimes when you're far away, it's hard to double click onto something. So for me anyway, I would sometimes select it and then just hit enter. Now this is all wood. I'm going to give it not a wood color necessarily, but just kind of a brown color for anything that is sort of going to become wood if I end up texturing this later. And then this wall here, you can see it in elevation, but This is where this is where it gets tricky because this wall would be closed off, but it was being blocked. The sort of stramp that we built sort of exposed some of these pieces. So we're getting somewhere. Guys, everyone, ladies and gentlemen, we are getting somewhere.
It's starting to look like something.
It's starting to look like something. All right, so this, I believe, is a different material. So I'm going to group this one here, and I'm going to copy that and just paste it outside of this group. And then I'm also going to come in here and just delete all this, and I'll show you why in just a second, because I'm just going to end up having to redraw this anyway. It's easier than instead of filling in all those little gaps. It's probably easier just to draw a nice, fresh, clean line, especially because it's at a different angle. So in this case, I'm just going to give this a thickness, even though I don't know what the thickness would be here, but just so we have something, I'm just going to give this like a little 6-inch thickness. And then I'll do this, that would actually be much thinner if that's glass. So think about it, you know. So and then if you look at the image here, that's not glass. That is a fence. And I'm going to just make it a different color then. I'm just going to give it sort of a solid gray, a lighter gray. So that's a fence. So in this case, what we do is here, I need to take this and turn this corner. So I got to figure out the best way to take this. What I might do instead is just grab this line, just come over here and grab a line here, and then just move that up to there, and then copy that, just use the inferencing all the way along that edge. And
you know, from that picture, it looked like most of this area is just like wood planking. Is that what it is?
Yeah. And then this one would pull out. I would pull this out. Sorry, it's probably hard for you to see. Sometimes I get into these weird angles where I can't see what I'm doing. So I'll try and get it so that it's a better angle. This one would go into here. Nope. Didn't mean to do that. I wanted to grab that one, delete that, go into this one, and explode it. You'll notice it changed color automatically because I painted the outside of the group, which some people will say that's okay, and other people say don't do that. So just letting you know that I'm one of those people who paints the outsides of groups. So that when I pasted it into this group, it automatically changed to that color. All right, so now we're ready to build out the rest of the deck. That's pretty cool. So let's put a person in there for scale. No, I'll come back and do that later. I don't want to mess up anything. We do need a wall on this side. So if we look at this here really quick, there is a wall on that side. So I'm just going to wall this in, and I'm just going to draw, like for now, I'm just going to draw a basic wall and just use that. Just kind of, yeah, there we go. And pull that out 6 inches just to kind of just give it something that sort of feels like a sense of enclosure. And then I can just call it. We can call it. And I'm going to bring that one down at an angle. So to do that, I need to figure out where this one goes. Somebody finding it hard, like when you're drawing the underside of something and you end up like tilting your head, like almost
yeah, tilting your head.
I'm feeling a little like, and it's funny because the 3D model, that's the cool thing about 3D modeling is that it's so convincing that we, of course, you know, we even kind of tilt our heads as if we're, all right. I can explode.
Speaking of which, do you use a 3D, the what is it called, a space mouse, like Aaron does when he models, or?
No, and I should, because it would be way smoother experience sometimes. So something to think about. Who else? Yeah, does anyone else use the space mouse? I like the space mouse. I don't have anything against it. I actually have one, not the big one that he has that has all the programmable keys. I have like one of the little ones. It's just kind of more for navigation, or it's great for 3D tours. If you are gonna like do an animation or a screen cap, it's so much better because you don't get the click, 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 click. But working, I've just been doing this for so long. I've just, you know, habit.
Yeah, I do the majority of the SketchUp work that I do is all on iPad because like I use that version more than anything. And so it's all, finger navigation like it, like you do. And so switching over to the desktop version, I have a space mouse like sitting here on my desk, but I haven't set it up yet to use it in a way that would be effective. And a large part of that is simply because, like I said, the majority of the sketch work that I do is just on the iPad, just because it's convenient. And it's better for my artistic brain to work with the pen and the iPad than, SketchUp on desktop.
Yeah, I was going to say, are you using the pen then and not like your finger? Obviously, on iPad, I wouldn't want to use my finger, but who knows? You can.
Well, I use the finger for navigation to orbit around.
So kind of a combination of the finger,
zoom in, zoom out,
and the pen.
Yep.
All right. So what I'm doing here is, and sorry if I'm doing this at a weird angle. I am trying to just get this. I'm copying lines so that I know that I'm being consistent with. I know that I'm parallel. I could use inferencing, but I'm just going to do it that way. So I don't want to do this whole thing, so I'm just going to kind of lop this off. You can see I just kind of lopped off a part of it. So if I come over here and turn my image to go back to my axo view, you can see this is kind of what I wanted. So if I hide this for right now temporarily, whoops, not that. This should all be one group, is it? No. Okay, let's group everything together. And I'll do the columns and stuff towards the end. I'm not too concerned about the columns right now. I kind of want to just do everything that's on the surface. And that needs to group with that. Okay, there we go. So what I wanted to do...
there are people chiming in saying that they do use the space mouse.
Yeah?
Yeah. I thought I remember Aaron talking about doing a piece of content about how to set up the space mouse, but I don't know if anything ever came from that.
I think that's coming out. So for those that don't know, we do these live streams, but we also do what called right now we call them Level Up SketchUp, which come out on Tuesdays. Those are SketchUp native tools, and Beyond Desktop that comes out on Thursdays. And those are everything in our SketchUp ecosystem. So it could be iPad, it could be HoloLens, it could be an extension, V-Ray, for example. So cool stuff. All right, I've got this. I want to switch over to, if you don't mind, Donovan. I always ask your permission because you're my when you're ready.
Yeah, I'm ready. I'm ready when you're ready.
I want to start laying out some of these pavers. Now, I know some of this is decking, so I'm going to have to break this sort of larger area up here. If I kind of take this and unhide this, what I want to do is I'm going to switch this image here. Hang on, X. I'm going to create a frozen layer because I still want to keep one of my images up. But this image here, I really don't need this anymore. I'm done with this. So I'm going to put that on a freeze so it doesn't show up anymore. There we go. Goodbye. What I want to do is bring this up to here. I want to bring this up to grade. And then I have to intersect this with model. And that didn't work. I thought I had traced around this. All right, so I'm not ready to do that yet. First thing I need to do is trace. I'm going to bring this down just a little bit. Maybe it's easier if it's not sticking, if it's not flush. Yeah, so what I want to do is I need to break this edge here because I don't want it going through my model that I just built, my observation deck. I want it to stop at the observation deck. So I'm going to need to kind of go around and break that. Sometimes intersect works, sometimes it doesn't. It really just depends again on what you're intersecting. In this case, I can group, delete.
Have you saved recently?
Not recently, no. All right, so now if this comes up to here, that's what I'm gonna say is, yeah, okay, that's what we're working with here. All right, folks, now I can switch and do the, we're gonna do in some modular paving. And I'm gonna pull up a different reference image if you don't mind. There's some really cool, this modular paver is really cool the way that it was designed. It's based on the width of the railroad gauge, and it's kind of used, you can see that it kind of acts as a transition between where it lets plants in and out. And I think that's because they really were inspired, James Corner, the designer, you can see here, this image, it opens up. It's sort of like the paving concrete module opens up and it transitions from concrete to planting, but it has this thin transition. So it does it over a period, over a length of time, as opposed to just as like a straight line, as a harsh transition. I think that's pretty cool because what it does is it gives you the ability, as you can see here, if you've been to the High Line, as you move up and down and you walk linearly, the pavers stay in one direction. So as the path moves, that transition between hard edge and soft edge is really kind of a dynamic transition. And I'll show you one more image and then I'll stop and we're going to go do it. Let me see, do I have that image? No, I don't. But then this module also becomes other things. So this same module that we're going to look at, it becomes benches and it becomes lights, and it becomes drains, and it becomes the planting edge. That's what we're going to do. We're going to lay out some modules.
Fantastic.
Yeah. I love modules. I don't know about you, but modules are the bomb. Because you can just, because they're modular, right? So I already, I did some math, and I'm going to redo the math earlier, but a train, if you guys know this, that a rail gauge, at least in the US, I think it's standard, it's this weird number. It's 4 foot 8.5 inches, which is such a kind of a random number. I don't know what the thickness of the rail is, but if I said 2 inches and then copy that again, 4 inches, so I'm giving myself about 4-inch breathing room on either side of this rail this is the tracks. When I say rail, I mean the metal part of the tracks. And so if you check the dimensions on this, the space between that is this kind of, this is what starts to get interesting here, is if you look at this, these ones are in lines of 4, but I was looking at another image. This one, I don't know if that was the image. Where was another reference image that I had? Maybe I didn't save it. But they had 5. Right now they're showing them in 4, but they're actually in rows of 5 in between the rail lines, in between the existing rail lines. So you can see there are existing rail lines on the High Line. My point that I'm trying to make is that that's the dimension of this module. So if I copy a line over and I say divide by 5, and then you can see this is what I have here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 modules fit between 2 rail, not rail ties, but rail tracks. Does that make sense?
From the YouTube comment, Studio RT Cool says, I love the precast parts. They're almost like a Lego set of pieces.
Yeah, so that adds up to, and I don't know how right this is because there's going to be a little bit more. I mean, there's probably a 1/4 of an inch for grout line, so on either side. So it's probably 10 inches, but I'm going to ignore the grout line for this. I'm going to, or the joint. I'm actually just going to do the 10.5, and we're going to let SketchUp line be that. So I'm going to make this a component. And if I was really smart, I would name it, but I'm going to go ahead and ignore that for right now. We were having a debate internally on the SketchUp team about the move, when you switch to move, and it automatically tries to do rotate. Some people on our team love that move and rotate are the same tool because you can use them without switching, and some people don't. I'm going to leave it there. Discuss
there are strong opinions.
Discuss in the comments. Are you on the camp where it turning into where move and rotate being the same tool and bugs you? Or are you like, oh, that's a feature I can't live without. That's the most awesome thing since sliced bread. I'd be curious. So
Randy chimed in and said 4 foot 8.5 doesn't convert to metric very easily either.
No, sorry, Randy. We don't do anything well when it comes to metric stuff. 5.5 feet. Is that what this is? Nope. 5. Oh, I see. 5.5. 5 foot 5 inches. I know, if we all just did metric, it would be so much easier. I mean, I would have to relearn everything, but actually that's not true. I do have experience working internationally, so I get that metric is, I get it. I just don't. I'm going to darken my edges up just a little bit. I hope that that's a little bit easier for you to see it at home, folks, so I don't have to switch to my pink drafting style for this. So one of these modules is a smaller module, and one is a larger module. And so for the larger module, I'm going to actually, I think it's actually the equivalent of 2 smaller modules. So if I just copied a smaller module over, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to stretch this. So I'm cheating, It's actually the same component. What's kind of cool about that is if I go in here and I made a change to it, it's what I was trying to say earlier with the seat walls, which is what I was trying to do, and then it didn't work. So in this case, what I want to do is grab a few of these just to kind of create some semblance of, and I'll give it a thickness too. I'm going to save. Thank you for reminding me. Okay. So this is where it gets kind of funky here. It's almost like a comb, like we're combing the plants. What I want to do is take these 4 and make these ones unique. Oh, a little fun tip, pro tip out there for you guys. If you didn't know this, when you're tracing in an image in X-ray mode, if you have your styles set up for your face style to be nicer, you're going to see, and of course it doesn't work here, but earlier when I was tracing over, you remember Donovan?
Yeah.
Yeah, I was tracing over, yeah, see that? I'm in X-ray and I just drew over this car. I cannot see the car at all. I can't see any bit of the car. I can't see anything. So something about the X-ray face style, it kind of works here on this image. I don't know why. Don't ask me why. But sometimes it doesn't work. Switch from nicer to faster. And that trick will make it so, excuse me, that'll make it so you can actually see through your faces. So pro tip.
Nice.
Again.
Very nice.
All right. So now, okay, let's
Peggy chimed in and said, try living in the UK. We're supposed to be a metric country, and we use kilos and grams and centimeters, etc.
Use whatever
we
works.
also use miles per hour, pints, and other imperial measurements as well. Well, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
I watch BritBox shows pretty regularly, and it always weirds me out when they talk about miles per hour, because I'm like, wait, is that right? Are they supposed to be saying that?
All right, so I'm not sure how to do this other than the fact that I'm going to cut this in half. So if you're wondering what I'm doing here, I'm going to delete 1/2 of this because I'm just going to flip the thing over. So what I need to do is, if you look at this here, if I move this over, what I need is I need this to taper. I need this line to go from here. That doesn't really look, oh, I see. It doesn't really look quite as right as it did earlier on the other side, but that's okay. I'm gonna run with it. I need to taper from here down to here, and I'm just splitting that in half, and I don't know if that's the right thing to do or not. So that's that. If I had the dimensions, like that's only 1.5 inches, but maybe I would say minimum that probably needs to be 4. So I'm going to go up to 2. I'm going to change that. I'm going to go back in and do what I think is, once you get less than 4 inches on concrete, it starts to get pretty thin. So this is where I want to see if this works out the way that I had planned. So if you think about this here, there's 2 ways to do this. We could either just take a curve and we can just tangent it and make a reverse curve, and we can call that done. Or if you really wanted to, we could use the fillet tool, which I don't think I want to because I just did it even faster. I just did it faster using just that reverse curve. But I did want to show, for those that do have a CAD background, I do want to show there is a fillet tool. It's part of 1001 bit tools. I kind of don't like these extensions that have a whole ton of tools. I kind of just want the ones that I want. But you don't have to use all of them. So I set a keyboard shortcut for, if I go to preferences, keyboard shortcut fillet, I have a Shift F. So if I hit Shift F, what it's going to do, it's going to prompt me, and it's going to say choose an edge, this edge, choose another edge, this edge. It's going to say what's your fillet radius. I'm going to type in this case, I'm going to say, let's go with 3 inches. And what it does, do you see what it did there on that curve? It just automatically did that fillet for me. So if you have a CAD background and you're used to filleting in CAD, which I use all the time in CAD, back a long, long time ago when I used CAD, don't use it anymore, but I think sometimes it is actually really nice when you're doing like streets and things like that, where you need to have a really precise, you need, everything has to be a certain radius. So I'm going to take that, I'm going to scale. I could use the flip tool, but I'm just creature of habit, the new flip tool, because the new flip tool is great, it works great, but I am just going to go ahead and do it that way. So This is where white on white background, again, sometimes gets me into trouble. So sometimes I'll just turn a ground on just for a moment, just for a second, so I can close that face, and then I turn that back off. I do like...
Yeah, that is something I've noticed as differences between the different people at SketchUp, is that you definitely use colors in SketchUp. You utilize colors a lot more in SketchUp than a lot of other people seem to.
You just mean on our team, like in the live modeling team?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know why that is. I guess like I also use color by tag. It's just part for me is that I'm just so ingrained to having things tagged and organized. And to me, I see color, like I see things this way. Like it helps me because I'm always thinking about materiality, especially when you go render. So anyone who has render experience, you know that you're pre-thinking everything by material, because you either want to group it by material, you want to tag it by material, or you want to apply a dummy or a placeholder color in advance. Because what it's going to do is it's going to just speed everything up later. So when I work with color, it's because I'm trying to pre-think that. All right, I've got my 2 modules here. Speaking of color, so this one actually one module, and then I just shrunk it. And then I've got my sort of my tooth module. So we're going to go ahead and let's go apply some of those. I can take this and make this whole thing too. If I wanted to, I could make this a component, although I don't think I need to because the module itself is a component. The only reason why I might do that is, I don't know, if I had to tweak something, if I had to shift something, I could do it to one and it would do it to all of them. I think as a rule, it's probably a good idea to make things components first. Just make it a component, because you can always turn it back to a group later. Like if you don't know, if you're not sure, kind of err on the side of caution and go with component. Some people like Dave R, I think he's one of those in the camp where component everything. And there's reasons to do that, and I'll say why. Because if you're counting things, if you have it as a component, you can say select all instances, and you can do that with groups. So like if you know later you're gonna, yeah, anyway, I'll stop. You get it. Okay, so don't need that. That was just to figure out what my spacing was. Got my spacing, got my teeth. Let's go see if we can apply some of these. I'm gonna take just kind of, I'm just gonna take a few of these since I have them kind of lined up like this, and I'm just going to copy them over. And this is gonna be a little bit tricky because what I'm gonna need to do is figure out how, let's see, if I turn my location snapshot on and I turn X-ray mode on, this is going to be really hard at this scale because I'm not being able to see. All I can kind of see is what's planting. The other option we could do is we could go do something like this. And we can say, well, look, there's a module right there. That's where the module starts. It starts at the end of this deck. Right? Do you see where I'm pointing?
Yep.
And then that's the beginning of the planting area. And then we use this module, and I'm going to count them. 1, 2, 3, 4. So this looks to be a 4 module. But I know I've seen them in 5. Where the train tracks are, they put them in modules of 5. And then you can see here that I don't know what this width is, but we can kind of guess at what do you think is a typical sidewalk, which is going to be about 12 foot clear. When you have this many people, probably want to shoot for at least 12 foot, and then you can just go ahead and just stagger. We could just stagger them at sort of a cool interval. Or we can start that first module. We can start this first module right. Sorry, it's a little tight, folks. Just right here, kind of just coming off of the deck. All right, I think we're just going to have to guess. Just going to have to wing it. So what I said was, I did say that we were going to start our first one right here. That doesn't work because this deck actually, it's not as long. You can see in reality, the deck goes to about here. So if we were going to do this correct, I'm going to want to extend my deck. So let's do that. Let's pull this out. Let's pull this out. What is that? Let's give it a nice even number. Let's go 8 feet. And then that way I can get rid of this one. So Donovan, while I'm doing this, yeah, just is there anything that you want to catch up on?
Transom chimed in the YouTube comments, said they told us in grade school in 1969 that we were shifting to metric. I'm still waiting. But speaking as a carpenter, I do like feet and inches. And that is something that I hear quite, because I used to live overseas, and so like I've seen the metric side of living and the imperial side of living, and the one constant I think when it comes to imperial is construction, and how universal and how easy construction is when using imperial than using metric, which is I think one of the main reasons why we are still imperial. I could be wrong, but I think that's one of the main reasons why we are.
Well, I always thought it was just American superiority. We just like to do things differently and just make everybody kind of follow along. And it's just because it's just, just as a way to kind of mess with people. I don't know. I'm joking.
I don't know.
I'm half joking.
Yeah.
Yeah. I just think, I think when things get so ingrained, it becomes really difficult. Even when we know that a better system works, like we all know this from our own lives. Like, I know I really should do this, and I know I really should be eating these, and I know I really shouldn't be, and what do we do? We end up doing it anyway. So just one of those things. Change is tough. Once it's institutionalized. This probably needs to come up here, doesn't it? This needs to come up till it matches that, because that's going to keep you from dropping over the edge, right? Okay. And then these stairs, if I wanted to, these probably have a handrail in here too. Oh, we're getting somewhere, folks. We're getting somewhere. I like this. How much time do we have? Oh, we got half an hour. All right, let's see what we can do in half an hour.
Yeah, we're good.
I don't like to go. Time. Yeah, I don't like to go. Further than we have to. I'm going to pull this back. I don't know where this starts, but I'm going to pull this back. I want it to in line with the. I'm going to pull this back in line with the first seawall. All right, so I don't really need more of these because I'm just going to probably copy it from this original module. So the tricky part about this next is going to be tracing the outline and then dropping the planter bed down, but we'll jump off that bridge literally when we get to it. We're on the High Line. We'll jump off that High Line when we get to it. All right, folks. All right, so this is where I'm eventually going to get rid of. I don't really need this. This is just kind of a placeholder for me, so that I'm working flat because we're above the ground. So I want to make sure that I'm just drawing to a plane. But in this case, I'm probably not going to. Probably not going to use this for too long. Okay. So the other thing I can do is if I wanted to point this up, depending on how I want to lay these out, I could come over here and say view axis, and I could say place, and I could come over here and just grab my axis and then just go ping, ping, ping. And then when I hit command 1, which is my shortcut for plan view, it rotates. So that's like UCS. So anyone who is used to CAD, if I actually click reset on this, what it'll do is it'll go back to world UCS. So you can see the world UCS in real life. The High Line actually goes this direction because New York is on the island. The whole island is at sort of an angle. So in this case, what I want to do is go back. I'm actually drawing to a rotated UCS or rotated axis if we're going to use SketchUp lingo. So I don't know how many of these. I feel like they go as far as they need to, and then it depends on how much planting they want to do. I'm guessing that they probably don't have more than 2 modules in a row, and the reason for that is because it keeps the planting somewhat staggered. I don't know what's going on in that zone.
Is that also to like encourage people not
that's
to
all
walk
planting.
on the plants?
That's all planting.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just a way that if you go back to, did I show the image of what it looked like before? This one? This is the image of what it looked like before. The intent was to preserve, to do the planting, to make it look natural and native and wild. And you can see the tracks are still there. So the idea was that the plants are just kind of popping up through the tracks. And I think that's what the inspiration was. Like, I shouldn't speak for the designer, but I'm pretty sure that's kind of what the inspiration was behind this.
That's interesting. That is a very cool use of like an existing space.
Yeah, so I'm going to pretend like these go in groups of 2 here. Although this could very well, I don't know. I have to go look at we have to go to the street view, unfortunately. We're going to have to kind of take a walk for a moment. Okay, I see. So if you look here, this might give me a better idea. It's a little blurry, but this one doesn't go this module starts at about halfway. That makes a lot more sense, and that's how I would have done it. You can see if you start this module, if you wait, then what you do is you end up having these corners. So if I recheck the dimension of this, it's 10 foot 10 inches, and then I go back 5 foot 5 inches. So that makes a lot more sense. I'm thinking that you're going to get those more staggered, like in a line like that, right? Do you agree?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
It's looking good.
You're agreeable. I like
really
that.
good.
I like that you're so agreeable, Mr. Donovan. That's why I work with you.
I am the voice of
you.
inexperience, talking to the voice of experience, and so I've learned that it's best to agree with what's going on when somebody knows what they're doing and is talking to you. So.
No, actually, it was fun. I had Aaron, speaking of voice of experience, I had Aaron on with me last time, and it was kind of a little bit of a different experience because it was like, in a way, I kind of appreciate Donovan, where you kind of do represent sort of the voice of a lot of our users, which is, hey, some of this is still over my head, and that's good because in that way, it's like some of the questions you ask are really good because they, Sorry, I can't talk and I'm doing math in my head. I'm like making copies. Do that at the same time, but you get what I'm throwing down. Yep. All right, let's see what this is starting to look like. So if I go to my AXO view, and I'm just going to switch my styles off of X-ray, I'm just going to switch that to textured and turn X-ray off, and I'm going to update that, and I'm going to kind of pick a cool view here. And then I'm going to come over to my styles, and I'm going to maybe...
Peggy's chiming in saying, does the second railroad tie piece need to be moved as well?
Which one is the second railroad tie piece?
I'm not sure what he's referring to.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I want to put some wood texture on this. I'm going to texture this in a little bit, but let me lay out at least this group. Let me just kind of, and I'm actually going to do this which way do I want to do this? I'm going to do this the opposite way. So I'm going to turn my axis back on, and I'm going to say place it, and I want to go this way. And the reason why is because when I look at it, I feel like it's easier for me to go up. The other thing I could do is I can change the color of this, and I can change the color of these. There we go. So your shadow settings too, sometimes my shadow settings are set to light because I like light shadows. So sometimes what you're going to see with me when you work with me is that it's actually, why are those not showing up as gray? Oh, I see why. Okay. I'm just going to get rid of that. That's why. I just want to see that as an outline. I think from there I'm probably fine. Why did that one get so dark? I actually would like to come in and maybe vary the colors a little bit, but I'm going to do that later. Okay, there we go. All right, moving right on. Let's take these guys here, and let's take those two of these and pop them over here and take them 90 degrees, 180 degrees. Math, folks. Math, kids. They always say, well, I don't need math. Why do I need math? Well, because here's why you need math. It's because you're building stuff, and it needs to be to scale, and you need a certain number of them, and it needs to hit at a certain point, and that's why you need math, folks. So that's 5 foot 5 inches. Okay, that's that module. So, oh, did I do that right? I didn't do that right. I'm going to copy that, and then I'm going to undo it. See my little trick about going back in time? And then I'm going to paste that in place. Now I have
paste in place.
Now I have a module that goes this way, and I have a module that goes that way. So I can just kind of grab whichever one I want.
Peggy chimed back in and said the one next to the deck is a full length in front of the next one that is half length.
Oh, are you trying to say that I'm not doing this right? Is that what you're saying? Let's go back. Let's go back and see where is my observation deck. We're going to go back. You're saying that we start with a full length, not a half. No, you're saying you're starting this first one. This first one is a full one. So is that something that we want to get that picky on? Because I'm going to give you, I'll say you're right, but I also don't want to relay them out. So you're right. All right, speaking of, okay, this is going to be tricky though because I actually might want to just drop all of these slightly below. I'll worry about this later, but I may want to just either take them slightly below or I just come in and take my scale tool and I just go in and for right now, just kind of scale it so they don't overlap. This deck here, does it have a wall on this side? It does. It has this sort of screen wall on it here. So one way to do that is to use follow me. So if I come over here and grab this line, come over here into there, paste that in place, click the new follow me tool icon, which for those of you that don't know that that's follow me, it is follow me. And that one probably goes all the way, that fence, if we look at it in here, that fence goes all the way to that first seawall. So what we're going to do is we're going to take this fence. You don't need follow me anymore because it's, in this case, push pull would work perfectly fine. So that's a fence, and I know that that's, yeah. I don't really like that wood color. let's give it a wood texture. Oh, I don't like the spinning beach ball of death. Please save. Let's give it a wood color. These maybe aren't my favorite. I'm going to be honest with you, folks. If anyone,
Yeah.
yeah, SketchUp Library is not my favorite materials. Yeah, not digging it. Sorry. I'm just going to go with more of like I'm just going to go with more of a woody color for right now. And then what we'll do is, just because it's going to bug me. So one way to do this is if you explode this group, you can take all of the pieces that are supposed to be wood. So I have to be careful here. I have to double check. All the pieces. Hey, what happened there? Did I have a copy of this? Don't have any.
Maybe.
Do I have a copy of this floating in there? Why would I have two? That's why when I painted it, it didn't change color.
The things you learn, right?
Yeah. All right. I'm going to grab that. I'm going to copy that. I'm going to get out of there. I'm going to pop into this group, paste that in place. Is that more of a wood color? Not really. Some of you are like, I can hear Aaron. I can hear Aaron in the back of my head. Move on. No one cares about the wood color. Yeah, but I do. Okay. That's my answer. And Aaron, you didn't actually say that, so that's me saying that he said that. So I'm not gonna say that he said that. Okay.
It's not to say that he wouldn't have said it if he was here.
He might have said it. It's something he might say, so that's why I said it. Okay. And I don't think he would deny it. If he would deny it, then I'll walk it back. But Aaron, you got to tell me that that's something that you wouldn't say, and then I'll walk it back publicly. And until then, I'm going to say I think he'd say something like that. So now there's probably a faster way to do this than just doing them like I could just lay out a huge grid of them and then delete them, and that actually might be faster. The other thing too is like right now I have 2 modules, but I don't necessarily need 2 modules because I'm in 2D. So if I wanted to, I could just come in anytime I place one of these like here, I could just grab these modules here and then just scale them because I'm using the same one. Now, that doesn't really work. Yeah, that works. I mean, I get a smaller piece. Doesn't really work though, does it? Yeah, it might. This is where I'm always like open to suggestions from the audience. Like wherever I know this thing is gonna go, I might just get rid of those ones completely. I might just get rid of those 4 completely, and then bring this in here, and then go in later at the end, and then just pop in, just go in and just pop the little half module, right?
Yep.
Okay. in this case. I'm just going to do a couple more. I feel like I want to be able to I want to do some plants. I want to move on to plants. So I want to get some trees in and some benches in. So I just want to make sure.
Yeah,
I've
we got
done
about 20 minutes, so
yeah,
perfect
thanks.
amount of time
Yeah,
for
okay.
plants.
Well, let's do this then. Let's go ahead and let me just do the pavers on this area. I don't think it'll take that long in just this zone. And then what we'll do is we'll take a look at if there's a bench. Is there a bench? There is. There's one right here. So let's do a bench. Let's model a bench. And then I'm going to, just for right now, I'm going to just put in some green so that we have, yeah. So I'm going to view my axis, turn those off. And I'm just going to grab a chunk of these. Yeah. Yeah, it can be a little bit quicker. I just want to get a few more of these in here. To me, this is the kind of fun part stuff because it doesn't require too much thinking. Like a lot of the thinking has sort of already been done. The harder part of it is when you actually are doing, like, trying to figure out how are we going to do this? Where do we start? It's always so much harder for me. What happened to our module there? Probably not right, but I'm going to leave it. This is when we get sort of towards the end, we can say, we got a module, it doesn't work.
That's all right, though.
Yeah, it's all right.
It's still good.
It's all good. Okay.
It's all good.
So let's do some planting. So here's the kind of tricky part with this. This is where we may be able to just come in and just lift this up. And I'm just going to, for right now, bring this up 2 inches just so that it sits above. And I'm going to bring this up 2 as well. So that's the nice thing about using one component for all of these is that now I have a thickness. And the reason why, actually I'm going to undo that. I'm going to do that again in just a second. Because what I want to do is actually come in here and just trace. Just come in and grab. Why is this part of the deck sit lower? It should sit there. What part is that? It should sit flush. All right, I'm just going to put this up here. It's so hard sometimes to get it. And then this one here, yeah, I'll just ramp this. I'll just slope this down. There we go. Okay, we're good. So what I want to do is just kind of trace an outline, just kind of a general outline. Get rid of, what is this? I don't need this. I don't know what that is. So let's get rid of that. We want to keep that though. We need this here because that's going to tell us, and I'm going to switch to perspective for this because it might make it a little bit easier to see. Yeah, we're going to go this way, this way. We're going to go here. And we want to kind of pick up behind each of these modules. The combs. I'm going to call them the combs.
The combs?
The combs.
Yeah. Oh, the combs.
The
Combs.
Yeah, and then if I kind of grab from here to here, I want to grab to there. Oh, that's not right. Extensions, Enroth, flatten to plane. Sometimes when you're drawing, I have a hard time sometimes. Sometimes I'll take this stuff up here, something like this, and I'll take this and I'll select everything and go extensions, Enroth, flatten to plane. And what it's supposed to do is break it. It's supposed to bring everything down to the same plane. So, yeah. So anyway, if I ever get stuck, that's kind of what I do. Now when I come down, here, I've got some green, and then I'm going to do this other side just quickly here. I'm just going to do some green over here, just so that we when we capture a view of it at the end, we kind of have all the materials. So here's what I mean by selecting all instances. If they're groups, you can't do that. And then I can come over here and say select all instances. and I can group both of those together. So this way you can either group or put all your paving on the same tag, which is kind of a quick way to do that. So if I wanted to hide something, I could do that. So there, 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 and that should be my green. I know there's Z fighting, but that's when I said I was going to, in just a second from now, I'm going to come up here and grab these and pull these up. I'm going to pull them up 2 inches. I'm going to pull these up 2 inches. So there's a little bit of a differentiation between 2. There we go. So you can see that now, hopefully. You can see that a little bit there. So let's.
Yeah, it's looking good.
So I got kind of a choice to make. We can either, in the amount of time we have left here, I can either put some plants in, we can put some textures in, or I can try and see if I can squeeze a bench in. I almost feel like I don't want to do the bench right now, to be honest with you. I have a picture of a bench. I have this picture here. So we could create that, or I could just kind of add some textures to it and make this look a little bit better, and just kind of maybe put some trees in. I'm gonna put some trees in.
I would say go for the plants, but
yeah,
that's just me.
Yeah. So textures, let's see if I have any. Yeah, let's put some plants in. If I would render it, I would go into Chaos, I would go into Cosmos, and I would start putting in some plants that kind of feel like, you can see all these different like grasses and some shrubs and the layering, and you've got some mosses or whatever that's kind of sticking up in between those. One thing I want to do is grab a concrete texture. I'm just going to do some texturing. I'm going to spend the last 10 minutes just kind of making this look a little bit better. So and then we'll call it.
Yep, the consensus from the chat is add textures.
Yeah, I feel like I need to add. I mean, I want to. So concrete. I always can never find concrete. Asphalt, because it's called asphalt in concrete, so that kind of bugs me. This concrete texture is actually not too bad. So that's kind of a light gray. And then I am going to grab a wood really quick. So let's see if we can find, I'm just going to pop this open. We're going to do this on the web. We're just going to type in wood decking seamless. See what shows up. And what do you think from the High Line? Is it more of like a distressed
seamless?
Wood?
Is that what you said?
Yeah. Is it like a distressed? It's kind of like a, what do you think that, there's some
It's like
variation in there. Yeah, it's kind of faded. So seamless, you kind of want to do a seamless because, yeah, you got to be careful. Now, one thing you can do is say minus stock. So if you say minus in a search, it'll actually, it'll remove stuff from the search. So in this case,
I did not know that.
You didn't know that?
No, I did not know that.
Okay. So if you want it high res, I probably want to log in. I could probably try log in. I am a member of SketchUp Texture Club. So if you are not, I would say do it. Oh, wait, I should probably not share my email, or else you guys are actually going to, you might actually email me. Okay. That'd be okay, though, if you emailed me, if you guys are fans. Okay, I'm just going to grab a low-res one. I'm just going to save this. That's kind of the color that I want to go with. I'm just going to save this. Let's try it. Let's keep this going, folks. I'm going to pull this in here. It's going to be a little lower res than I would typically want, but it's okay. We're not rendering this. 90. 90 that way. Explode. Now it's a texture. So, yeah, it's okay.
Wow.
So then what I could do is come into my shadow settings, and I could brighten this up a little bit if I wanted to, So there's my wood. And how is it on the sides? I'm guessing it's horizontal on the sides. It's not.
Yeah,
oh no, it's vertical. No, it's vertical.
Oh, it is vertical.
So that was right.
So
that was sort of a happy accident. Let's put some, I'm going to put some 2D. I'm going to go 2D instead of 3D. So let's see if this works. Sometimes, and I'll knock on wood here, sometimes my component browser crashes SketchUp. I have no idea why. It's just one of those weird things. like when I go to grab a component. So luckily it didn't. So I like to work with these Daniel tall trees because they're just sort of just fun and generic. So if I look at this really quick, I can see a grid of trees, and that looks like they go at an angle in this deck. So the wood decking, oh, this is easy. This is all wood decking, and it looks like there's how many trees? 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 1, 2, and 1. So we can do a little grid of trees. Yeah, let's try that. So this wood decking actually continues. So this makes my job easier. So if I just come over here and grab a rectangle, and I just come over here like this.
Randy from the chat says, once you start using those textures, you end up replacing all the built-in ones because the difference is so noticeable.
Yeah. Yep. You'll end up, if you do this a lot, if you work with textures or you want to go to rendering or something, you will find that you need to have your own little texture library. And over time, you find, because you have some favorites that you like. I do have sometimes, I do have a library, but I don't always have them. Like what I haven't done is sort of taken the time to go into SketchUp and make them actually like my default libraries, so you can actually just access it right into SketchUp. Oftentimes they just sit in another folder. Okay, so I'm going to do that. I'm going to pretend like this is green. And there you go. So that would be wood. Although we need to check we need to change the texture. We need to reposition it. I don't want to scale it. I just want to, let's see, there we go. And then this area here, I'm pretending as I'm going to ignore that for right now. Well,
looks good.
Let's put some veg in there. We're just gonna kind of play around. And if you want, here's a little trick. If you go extensions, I use one called Materials Tools from TomTom. You can just remove all of the, you can just remove them from your selection. So if you wanted all of your trees, for example, to be the same color, you can just come over here and go, you can just remove them. So like if I have maybe 4 or 5 different trees that I'm using here, like this case, I might use this one. I'm going to grab that one and pop that there and make a little grid. I'm going to divide that by 2. And then I'm going to grab that grid and divide this by 3. And that one goes away. Yeah, so you can just select all of these here and then just go extensions, materials, tools, remove from selection, and grab, and then just go ahead and paint. Yeah. And this one is a fence. This is a fence material. Do we have good fence materials?
Studio RT Cool says, or material replacer. Love that extension.
Material replacer. Yep, landscape and fencing. We don't have really great fence materials here. I'm just going to put one in that sort of looks like a chain link fence. And then I think I'm going to, one thing that's kind of cool is you can, not going to do it, but we're not going to do it here. Yeah, let's go put in, let's put some vegetation. Speaking of V-Ray, sometimes I'll use a V-Ray material. So if you go V-Ray for SketchUp, you can come over here to Cosmos, and you don't always have to render it. You can just use a V-Ray material. So if I just typed in ground, like they just have nice materials. So sometimes you can say, oh, I like ones with leaves, and I like something that's more organic or mulchy. So I would import that into my model. So there it is, it's in my model. And then I would come over here and I would open up my asset editor, and under materials, there should be one that's called dirt. And then I would just say, apply this to my selection. So there it is. So the texture is sort of the wrong size, but that's okay. We can come over here and go with colors in my model. And hopefully, if I applied this correctly, I could come over here and say something like 10 feet. That's probably too big. I'm going to go with 6 feet. Okay, going to go with that. So you get kind of a little mulchy material. Yeah. And I want to bring this deck. This deck. This needs to be. I don't know what that's going to be, but we're going to put some people in, and then I'm going to call it. So let me drop some people in. Let's come over here to components, and I have, speaking of libraries, I have some people that I've just sort of saved. So maybe we'll grab a gal here. Come on. Yep, what did I say? Something about that the people that I brought into my SketchUp. I said it. I said it was going to happen, and it did it.
It did it.
It did it.
You called it.
I called it. So what we're going to do is we're going to open that up again. It's time. I'm not going to end the stream without having it as my backdrop. So we're going to open that back up again, and I'm going to say do not send. We'll have a talk with the people, the powers that be later. Okay. And I'm just going to pick kind of a cool view. And I don't know, pick a cool view. That's it, folks. Okay, get rid of my trees. And yeah, I'll upload this to 3D Warehouse. I'll post it on the forum for those that want to play with either the module. So this is 1001-bit tools. I don't need that. I'm going to go ahead and put that away. And I'm going to leave it there. I'm going to call it there. We got a few more minutes to spare. I'm going to say, hey, folks, this is why I prepare, right? When I do this in advance and I kind of work out all those kinks, I get a little bit further. But hey, this is modeling in real time. You know, we get as far as we can get and we have some fun together. So thanks everybody for coming and joining, giving up your Friday, whether that's afternoon or that is end of day or middle of the night, wherever you're coming from. Thanks. So Donovan, you want to close us out with any announcements or any reminders? Who do we have next week?
Yeah, just like we said earlier in the live, our forums are a great place to connect with not only members of the SketchUp team, but also people in the community, as well as here on YouTube. Subscribe if you already haven't. We recently passed 500,000 subscribers, on our way to another 500,000, so we can get that diamond play button. Other than that, it has been great to hang out with everybody. Chats are always vibrant and fun, as always. It's been good, everybody. Thanks for hanging out with us.
Yep. Thanks for hanging out with us, everyone. And there it is. There is our observation deck for the High Line. So with that, we'll see you next week. And yeah, be cool. Let me find my little button. Where's my music button? There it is there. See everyone. Thanks.